Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Nelson with Araco Technologies, the only American-made manufacturer of massage chairs on the planet. And I have the rare privilege to have to introduce you to your host, who is Dr. Michael Olpin, Weber State University, and the owner of the Stress Management Place, plus one of the most powerful facilities I know on stress relief. And his guest, who is Dr. Alan Weidner. He's a chiropractor, and he's one of the owner massage chair relief, as well as one of the foremost authorities on therapeutic massage, the benefits of therapeutic massage. With that said, gentlemen, I want you to go ahead because I've been learning a lot from you both over the past couple of years, and I'm really excited to listen in on what you're going to be discussing today. So I want you to go ahead and take it from here, Dr. Hope.
Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here, especially to be here with Alan and to discuss some really important things associated with stress and stress reduction and improving our lives. Before we do, I'd like to start with kind of a story that got me really dialed into the importance of stress management and stress relief. I remember once I had a really close encounter with a rattlesnake. I was happily riding along after a long ride with just one last hill to climb before coasting home. And as I rounded the corner to start up the hill, I heard a loud hissing sound. I knew immediately what it was and burst up the hill at top speed. What would have taken me minutes to climb took only seconds. For just a few moments, I felt like Superman. Once out of the range of the rattlesnake, I was exhausted, no gas left in the tank. This event solidified a reality about stress for me. Most of us perceive everyday events as rattlesnakes. At least that's how our bodies react to perceived threats. Unlike that day on my bike where I turned off my stress and happily rode home, many people don't know how to turn off their stress. One of my main focuses is helping people not to get stressed in the first place and how to turn it off when chronic stress sets in. It's crucial to find ways to manage and reduce our stress. Fortunately, there are many people who have figured out effective ways to turn off stress and help people live healthier lives. And Dr. Alan Weidner is one of these people. Dr. Weidner and I first met when I was exploring different tools for stress relief to incorporate into my stress relief center at Weber State. Dr. Weidner was instrumental in inspiring me to conduct a study on the effectiveness of massage chairs. We had lunch together, and it was then that he suggested that I do a study on massage chairs. None had ever been done before. His encouragement and support led to the only published studies on massage chairs that I'm aware of. And Alan, I don't know if you are there any additionally since I've done those?
No, not a one.
No, we had two studies that were published in really good scientific journals, and it validated the benefits of massage chairs. And so, Alan, welcome to this podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
We're calling it our Wellness Workers podcast. And this is kind of our very first one, and couldn't be more honored to have you be our first guest on our podcast.
It can only go up from here.
So I want to ask you a few questions. Put your expert hat on.
Good.
And tell us a little bit about first of all, your background and what led you to the field of massage therapy, and specifically massage chair therapy.
Well, I'm a chiropractor by trade. I went to the Los Angeles College of Chiropractic. 1988 to 1992 is when I left there, and I moved to Utah here and set up a practice. And honestly, my venture into massage chairs was purely financially motivated when I started, because the practice was slow. It was a tough industry for me to make a living at. And I considered how could I make some side money to help me support my family. And I happened to have a massage chair in our clinic that we used for people to sit on while they waited for their chiropractic therapy. And we had a massage therapist there too that would do some massage therapy. Well, what happened was two customers around the same time, I sent out in my newsletter that we have these massage chairs and we can get you one if you want one. for Christmas, and two of the customers took me up on this. One was a headache sufferer in a very high stress job. The other one was I don't know if it was a high stress job, but she had pretty bad hip pain. And they used to come every week, every 2 weeks, something like that. And they didn't show up for like 6 months, either of them. And one of them was my neighbor's daughter. And so one day when I was out working in the yard on a Saturday, I saw Gil across the street and we chatted. And I said, "Hey, how's Jen doing? I haven't seen her in ages." And he said, "Well, she's fine. She got that chair and it took care of her headaches." And I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes. I see, I didn't know that. I just thought it was something people could sit in to feel relaxed before they go in for an adjustment, which is kind of stressful for some people. And then the second lady came back to the clinic maybe a month later, and I asked her, "How have you been? You know, it's been a long time since we've seen you." She said, "Oh, the chair has basically taken care of my hip pain." So, so I realized then that there was something there. And so I thought, well, maybe I could sell these chairs. And back then there were very, very few retailers. This was in 2005. And that's how we started with massage chairs. And really, at the time, Human Touch was the only game in town. And then Panasonic and Sanyo showed up. And then, of course, it's grown exponentially since that time. The market now is crazy. But what people are finding is that, and this was unbeknownst to me, that massage chairs can help headaches, backaches, sciatica, sleeping, and stress. Stress and relaxation are the big ones. And so I knew that the chairs could do this, but it wasn't until you and I connected that because you were measuring that stuff when people were sitting on massage chairs and other modalities. And that's how you kind of backed up everything that we anecdotally knew, but you kind of nailed it down with your study about pain relief, stress relief, blood pressure. And I'll let you go into that as you wish. But that's kind of how I got into it. And then, of course, I got out of chiropractic, sold my practice 2008, and then we have four stores in the Western United States.
44 now?
No,
Wow.
4. Sorry, 4.
Oh, 4. I thought you said 44.
Oh, heavens, no. I'd be in the grave. I'd be in the grave now if there was 44 of them.
I think it'd be good to just mention just a little bit about how that unfolded. We have a stress relief center at Weber State University, and we have quite a few tools, quite a few items that we have purchased over time. We have chi machines, we have meditation areas, we have all kinds of gadgets. But by far the most popular of our tools are the massage chairs. And I didn't know when I first started into the stress relief center. I mean, I was just shooting from the hip because I didn't know of too many other places around the country that had that sort of thing. And so it was then when I went online and I said, I don't know anyone who has a massage chair and I want to get a good one. So I ended up contacting you, Alan, and that's where we kind of started. And then we had 1 or 2 chairs donated to us. I ended up buying 2 or 3 from you. And by far, the massage chairs were the most popular items. The other items were popular, but nothing like the massage chairs. I think mostly because people don't have to do anything when they're sitting in a massage chair. I mean, if you're meditating, it's kind of, okay, here's what I have to do. But massage chair, it's completely passive. And I think that's one of the appeals of the massage chair. And so anyway, when people come into my stress relief center, first thing we do is we measure them for heart rate, blood pressure, perceived stress, and perceived stress-related pain. Those 2 scales are on a 1 to 10 level or scale, and then they do whatever they do, and then we measure them again. And we were just kind of doing it just to see if we were getting any results and kind of to help support the funding that was coming to the stress relief center. And that was when I don't know how it was that we got on that subject, but you said, we need to get together. We had lunch, and you said, you need to do a study. And I had never thought of doing research on that, but the intrigue of no studies out there either meant one of 2 things. It either meant it's a dumb thing to study, or nobody's ever thought of it. Yeah. And so we went with the second, and we ended up with two published studies, one in an international journal and another in a national journal. The results of that study, of the research, and we had like thousands of participants in the study. I forget the actual number. It was like over 3,000. We would get 70 people in per day, and everyone who came in, we'd measure them. And the people who ran the data on this, who ran the statistics on the data, they said to me, they came to me and they said, "This is unbelievable, the results you're getting." They said, if these results were a drug, were a pill, it would be the most popular, best-selling drug available because of how strong the results were, how strong the effects of being in a massage chair for 15 to 20 to 30 minutes are on reducing blood pressure, reducing heart rate, perceived pain, perceived stress. And so that's really cool. And I think it supports the whole massage chair industry really nicely. So let me ask you this. So over time, what have been some of your biggest challenges as you've broken into this field of the massage chair industry, and you have been a pioneer in this field like nobody else I know of? What are some of your biggest challenges, and how have you found yourself overcoming those challenges?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for a bird's eye view is how infantile the industry is. It's not, I mean, massage chairs have been around since the 60s, but as a matter of fact, the first massage chair was created by legend has it, by a sewing machine parts salesman in Japan, whose daughter had extreme headaches. And he made out of their dining room, one of their dining room chairs, he made a massage mechanism out of sewing machine parts and put that on her neck. And I can only imagine how abusive that was when it's, not a refined design, but it helped her. And that's kind of where the genesis of massage chairs. But it's a very infantile industry. I mean, I started in 2005 with my website, and back then there wasn't a tremendous amount of chairs to pick from. And now in just 20 years, my goodness, there's my goodness, brands galore, and off-brand and premium brands. And there's cheap chairs, and there's expensive chairs, and there's multiple retailers. And it's growing up, and it's kind of blossoming. But in my mind, it's still kind of the Wild West, where we're still trying to figure out where we're going. And it's kind of like maybe when I don't know, it just seems like there's just so many different entities out there that are promoting chairs, selling chairs, manufacturing chairs. I mean, there are literally hundreds of factories in China that are building chairs and reaching out to not just me, but probably every retailer in the United States, trying to get them to import some chairs. And so our industry, and from that point about how infantile the industry is, that's one of the reasons why there's no studies. People get into the industry to make money. That's why I got into the industry originally, was to make money,
Right.
a little side hustle, and it became my career. But I come from a kind of a scholastic background, and so research was always hammered into our heads, validating what you're saying, backing up what you're saying, and so it was like I felt like there was nothing in the industry that was really supporting massage chairs other than the desire to make money, which is a good. I mean, in a capitalist environment, that's good motivation. But from that motivation, it has to become a little bit more altruistic at some point, where it benefits the masses, not just in making money and getting a good deal, but why massage chairs work and what to be aware of. One of the biggest challenges we have in our industry now is there's a lot of, I wouldn't say misinformation, but information that's not being shared about massage chairs that people need to be aware of. So now we have a problem, if you want to call it a problem, of excessive information, excessive product with minimal educational information tagged along with it. And so I through years of doing my industry update, as you're aware of, and I've been doing that for since '09. It's become painfully aware to me that people don't really know what they're doing when they're shopping for a massage chair. So I think as the industry matures, we're going to see more people like you doing studies on the chairs. There's going to be more sentinels in our industry that's going to be, you know, watchdogs, if you will, for the industry and helping to protect people from getting ripped off or buying junk or you know, measuring quality control to some degree. And that's kind of that's the biggest challenge, I think. It's just education. That's what I think it is. There's no shortage of chairs to try.
Yeah. Who do you think, who would be the overseers, those sentinels that would kind of, I hate to use the word regulate, but would help educate, or is that something you would be involved with?
Oh, that's what I do. That's what I do. I mean, we sell chairs, but the overriding motivation in the business is educating people. But I think other people that are in the industry, okay, so there's always education going on, or what I might call marketing going on about massage chairs. But it's all so good and so fantastic and so unbelievable that everybody thinks that every chair is for them or any chair will work. But there's so much more that people need to understand, not just about the chairs, but about the industry, about the business. And I think that, I mean, golly, the fact that you've got me on a podcast or a broadcast, I've never seen a broadcast in our industry. That's why I do broadcasts on my end, because there's just nothing like it in the industry. And and of course, most of it's promotion, right, by leaders of the companies that we invite on. But then, you know, you're going to be on next week for ours, and you're going to be talking about something that's unrelated to, you know, how awesome this chair is or how awesome our company's chair is. You're going to be talking about something that massage in general benefits, and massage chairs in general benefit. So I think we just need to get a broader base of contact and a broader base of data to be able to do that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. What do you think are the most significant changes you've seen in that span of years? What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in the massage chair industry?
Well, there's probably 3 or 4 of them. The first one that we saw that made a big difference was 3D rollers. So having rollers that could go forward and back to increase the depth and lessen it or increase or decrease the intensity of the rollers. That was huge, because most chairs were just 2D before that. 2D meaning X and Y axes. So the rollers were moving side to side and up and down. But the 3D, which is the Z axis, is the forward axis. And that axis is where the depth is derived from. So that was a big one. And then foot rollers was another big one. Getting foot rollers. Now, of course, now we've got calf rollers, and some chairs have arm rollers, but the foot rollers were really the first foray into rollers working on something other than the back. And then I would say the L-track. The L-track's was a huge shift. I remember when the first L-track chair came out, which was the Infinity Yashi. That was like, wow, that like just, it made sense. You had rollers that went down your back and under your butt to massage your glutes. That was a huge technological breakthrough. And then I'd have to say the split track, where they take the L track and they divide it into 2 tracks now that work kind of independently of each other, yet in concert. You've got a set of rollers on the lower track, a set of rollers on the upper track. And Lorocco's got their I9 series that has that. And that's I think that's the biggest recent technological breakthrough. And I just might add in maybe a 5th one would be the use of airbags. When I first got in the industry, airbags just kind of squeezed. It was just a balloon that squeezed your arm or squeezed your legs. Well, then Inada, which is a Japanese company, which we don't really hear much about anymore, but they were one of the first Japanese manufacturers of massage chairs. They came out with the Inada Dreamwave, which was a chair that used airbags differently. They didn't just use them to compress. They used them to move the seat from side to side, to move, push the lumbar spine forward on one side than the other to induce a stretch. And then they started using sequential airbags, where they would kind of go up and down the arm instead of just one big bladder. And so
Mhm.
that was probably the biggest shift for the look of massage chairs, because that kidney-shaped look that started with the Inada and the use of airbags, the creative use of airbags. So those are probably the biggest changes.
Do you think there will ever be a massage chair that can also do the top side at all? Like say the tops of your legs, or I don't know where else you would, but the whole leg, the bottom of the leg, or your thighs on top. Do you foresee that as a possibility, or is that limited to the water massagers that
Well,
you get into like a tanning bed?
yeah, you lay down and those water jets
Yeah.
spray you. No, I do see that coming, but
Do
I
you?
don't know. I think the battle in the market is integrating form and function. And the function of massaging your quads, I think, would be huge.
Hmm.
And I think having rollers of some sort, or a strong, very regional specific airbags on the pec muscles.
Hmm.
And even though we have shoulder airbags, we don't really have anything that massages the deltoids. And so I can see a lot of areas where that could be improved. And I think they'll come with it. But how are you going to sit in a chair and have your quads massaged? It's probably going to be some mechanism that comes over and
Yeah,
encases your legs and then works on the quads. I don't know.
that
And
is.
one of the deficiencies, and it's mostly because of physics, is getting rollers that go down to the belly of the hamstring. Rollers go into the hamstring, but it's the upper insertion part or the origin part in the hips, but it's
Mhm.
underneath the glutes, underneath the piriformis. It's a hard muscle to hit. And the rollers can sometimes get down and just barely touch the belly of the hamstring. But the problem is the seat can only be so deep, and
Mhm.
you
Right.
can't. And the roller mechanism, it extends longer than the rollers do. Like there's a track, but then there's physical endpoint to the track where the rollers end, and that's not so much to the belly of the hamstring. And even if it does, it can't
Mm.
get in any depth. So that's where we could really see some changes.
Interesting. Yeah, some engineering miracles.
Yeah, and they'll come up with it. Someone will come up with something. But whereas Japan was the original innovator of massage chairs, China became the innovator because the lower cost of labor and the lower cost of parts. That's where all the manufacturing went. But now we're starting to see a change. You know, Laraco's an American company that comes up.
Mhm.
It's coming up with their own technologies, and we've got now the pendulum is swinging back to Japan. More and more chairs are coming out of Japan. And so that collective brain dump should be able to come up with some ideas.
That's very interesting. So you mentioned a few of the health benefits. What would you say are the primary? I mean, if somebody's shopping for a massage chair, or if somebody wants to use one in their clinic or something like that, what are the primary benefits of using a massage chair for stress relief and overall wellness, would you say?
Well, there's a lot of things that it helps, but the most popular ones, based on a survey that we did with people that purchased chairs from us, we asked them what was the main complaint that you had that motivated you to buy a chair,
Mhm.
and did and they can list any number of them in whatever order they want, and then what percent of you, the customer database, what percent of you had received help from the chair for those particular conditions. And the
Mm.
ones that were the top were back pain,
Mm.
neck pain, stress, and relaxation. Those are the three big ones. There was some that had sciatica stuff taken care of, or wrist pain, or foot
Mm.
pain. But the big ones were back pain, neck pain, stress, and relaxation.
So
I
how
didn't
would
even
they?
realize stress and relaxation was such a big deal, honestly. And I'm embarrassed to say that because we've had a relationship for many years, and I know that you use them for stress, but it never clicked in my head that this is going to be one of the most popular reasons that people get chairs. And now in the society that we live in, stress is
Mm.
a huge thing.
Yeah. So
So
how
chairs
would
will become more and more for that.
when you gave them the survey, and would you just send out a like an email with the survey attached to it, and they would respond back? Is that how you did
Yeah.
that?
It was a link. It was a link to a survey software that we used.
So how did they, was that just one of the areas you just put stress and relaxation, or was it, I mean, I'm curious to know because you don't really know, nobody really knows that they're stressed They just
Yeah.
feel the symptoms of stress. It's the symptoms like the headache, the back pain, the muscle pain, the emotional components. Those are the things that are the result of chronic stress. But in your survey, it was just stress and relaxation was one of the categories that they could choose, huh?
Stress was one, relaxation was another. And we kind of coupled those together when we worked out the numbers.
That
But
is so interesting.
yeah, and but I listed a whole bunch, and then at the bottom I put other, because sometimes there's weird stuff that can happen either from the musculature or the neurology when a roller is going over your back and things start to, blood flow goes to the area, the nerves might be affected between the joints of the bones, the muscles are affected. And there were some other interesting ones. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were some interesting ones that people put in there. But the stress and relaxation, when we added it together, it was more than the back pain.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a big deal. That stress
That
is
is so interesting.
But you know what? People know they feel stress. I don't think the point you're making, which is a valid point, is there a correlation between stress and pain? Well, yeah, okay. So I'm doing a repetitive stress syndrome job. I'm working in a factory, or I'm a checker at a grocery store, and I'm feeling that over time, or playing golf or tennis. Eventually, yeah, it's physical stress.
Right.
But I don't think people connect emotional stress altogether with somatic symptoms.
Except for maybe headaches.
Yeah.
There's a connection there. Maybe some neck pain, but I think you're right that there's not that connection. People don't. So let me ask you this. How do you think, or to what extent do you think how do massage chairs compare to traditional massage therapy as far as effectiveness?
Well, there are studies on massage therapy out there, and there have been for years. And so we derive much of our benefit, the knowledge-based benefit from the massage studies. And but practically, massage therapy is fantastic, whether it's by a massage therapist or by a roller table that a lot of chiropractors use, or a massage chair, or the aqua hydro massage. The benefits of massage are there. But there's something about a chair that kind of can trump a lot of that stuff. Like, for example, now with the split track, you've got rollers working on your neck and upper back, and rollers working on your butt. Just like having two massage therapists. You've got rollers on your calf, rollers on your arms, feet, everything. And so the fact is, you're simultaneously getting a repeatable massage.
Yeah.
So a massage chair, it's not subject to mood or strength of the rollers on a given day, or what's going on in the life of the massage chair the day that they're offering a massage. It's completely inanimate, and whatever the chair does one day can be repeated the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And that's another great thing, because I like going to a massage therapist. Don't get me wrong, because they can target some muscles that a chair can't hit.
Yep.
But if I get a new massage therapist, it's like, oh no, I don't know if this person can do what the other one did, or whatever. But a chair, what you're going to get.
100%. It was kind of funny to me when people would come into the stress relief center and they would just beeline to the massage chairs. They would just, what do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. We have all these things. Nope, massage chair, because they knew exactly what they were going to get every time. And so when a person tries a massage chair for the first time, what kind of effect, or what have you noticed when people are like sit down and they've never been in a massage chair? What is their initial reaction?
That's a good one. We have in the clinics, we see this all the time. People have heard about a massage, so they come in, and it's pretty broad spectrum. There's some people that just, and there's not many like this, but they just, I can't handle it. Cannot handle it. And we change the intensity. We try putting blankets behind them or pads. They just don't like it. And I think that could be said for massage therapists too. Some people just don't want to get massaged.
Right.
Then there's others. It's like, wow, unbelievable. And they come back and they'll say, my headache's gone, or my back feels better. Like in that moment.
Yeah.
And then there's others that we hear them snoring in the showroom.
Yes.
So there are some people that, and if there's anybody else on this call that as deals with massage chairs, you know that there's people that come in that can't sleep, and they're thinking they can sleep in the massage chair, and some do. But if they use it right before they go to sleep, a lot of times they'll sleep better. So you get those kinds of, like, somebody yelling, ouch, that's not very common. And then the others that just can't believe how good this feels. And then there's others that sleep right through it and love it.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask you a little bit later. To what extent could a person use this as a sleep aid prior to falling asleep? I mean, would you highly recommend this to anybody? I mean, is that because sleeping problems are rampant as stress problems.
Yeah.
The two are
Absolutely.
kind of down the same railroad track.
Yeah, and I hadn't ever thought of massage chairs being for sleeping, but
Mhm.
people come back and tell us, like, the feedback is great. Granted, it's not a study,
Yeah,
but anecdotal feedback is huge for people
sure.
because you trust their
Yeah.
experience, and they have no motivation to come and lie to me about what happened, because there's no benefit or punishment for it. They just tell me what their subjective experience is. And when I found out that it helped people sleep, I was kind of surprised. But people that use the chair right before they go to bed often have a deeper sleep.
Yeah.
Why? Physiologically, probably because it takes their mind off of whatever they're thinking about. They're getting sleepy. It does relax the muscles. It increases some blood flow to the back. I don't know. I don't know what the physiological reasoning is, but it works.
Yeah, we called them guided relaxation exercises. And what we found is when people use those, and I made some that are for relaxation and recharging, and some others that were designed just for helping people fall asleep. And so with my classes at school, for example, they all are assigned to do relaxation. Every single week I have enough that they can do something different each week. And it's amazing how many, I mean, it's probably, if I were to run the numbers, 95% of the people who have sleep problems no longer have sleep problems after the semester's over because they've figured out how to turn off their stress prior to sleep. Because the last thing that a person wants to do, I mean, if your mind is constantly going, you're just thinking of everything that you needed to do tomorrow or you needed to do today and everything that you need to do tomorrow. If your mind is constantly going, your body's not receiving any signals that it should be sleeping. It's receiving signals. Well, if you're telling me I should be doing this, then I better be doing it, not sleeping. And so it's just, people think nobody's trained in this, but they're just thinking, oh, I've just got to, I have all these things going on. And the body's going, well, heck, I'm not going to fall asleep if you've got it. It doesn't know. I mean, it takes every thought that we have literally. And so when you learn, and this is why I love massage chairs for the same reason, when you learn how to relax the body, which is relaxing to the mind, the body goes, oh, and when I lie down, this is what I did when I was 3. So this is what I better do now is fall asleep. So yeah, I love that.
Do you find the challenge is greater as people get older? I know you deal with a lot of students, but I have found that as I've gotten older, those thoughts consume me. Like, I'm a business owner, so I stress always about my business or about my family. And I find that as I get older, it's harder for me to overcome that, I don't know, that obstacle, that first hurdle to getting to sleep. Or I wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, of course. And I have trouble going back to sleep because now my mind's going again. But I notice in your stress program, you deal not just with dealing with stress as it comes, as it occurs, you deal with avoiding it altogether before it ever becomes an issue. But I don't know, do you find that with older people?
Yes and no. I don't know that. I mean, because I work with people of all ages, and it's just a different I mean, whenever the body hears a thought of that sounds like uh-oh, no matter what it is, it assumes there's a rattlesnake. And the last thing it wants to do when there's a rattlesnake is fall asleep. And so it's not more prevalent, I don't think, with as we age. It's just different sort of uh-oh sounding things compared to the, like, say the college student. The uh-oh is I've got a test tomorrow and I haven't prepared. So, and it's constantly saying uh-oh, and the body's ramping up.
Yeah.
It's just a different conversation that we have with our bodies. I don't know if it's I do know that in general, for the population, it's more prevalent top to bottom. I mean, there's more of that, those threat thoughts going on than even 15 years ago. But I don't know if it's uniquely more so with
Yeah.
as we age. And I know plenty of people who are, retired who, they're gone in a second. And so it's a good question.
Well, I suspect there's other factors too, like hormones and
Yes.
whatnot. I suspect there's other factors, but geez, it's sleep's a
Yeah.
big deal for at my age and for still doing what I do. I find it very challenging.
Yeah. And you're not alone. I mean, activity level, nutrition. I mean, there's so many variables that are contributing to better sleep or not that it's kind of like depression. There's like 100 different variables for that can lead toward depression. And so you kind of line as many as possible up in your favor. And I think that the sleep is the same way. You just do as many things as you can control for. And I think stress is certainly one of the biggest ones. And it sounds like, in your experience, massage chair seems to be very helpful that way. What were
It
your
does, but I think I need to correlate stress with pain more. I don't do enough of that in educating people. I think that's a valuable takeaway for me.
What were your initial thoughts when we talked about the results of our study? Were you surprised, or I mean, what did you think when we kind of went over what we found and published?
Well, I remember when we first had that lunch in Ogden. I remember that because you had told me, because I suggested it, and you said, well, I have like data, and at the time you said it was 4,000 people. And I thought 4,000 freaking people, and you measure all this before and after every
Yeah.
every session. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a gold mine.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I think. Well, I think what you did with it is great, because what you've done. And so I didn't read through all of the studies. I read through the abstracts and I read through the conclusions primarily.
Right.
And I transposed those into my blog for customers to read. But basically, the term you used when we had dinner or lunch was the numbers are statistically significant. I still remember you telling that to me. And I remember that term in chiropractic when we studied research projects, but you said it was statistically significant. And I said, well, what does that mean like in this case? And you said, oh, the massage chairs, like, I think it was dramatic. Like it was significant enough that there was a study waiting to happen. And that's when I realized that there's something more to these massage chairs than what we've been selling people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, in research terms, when something is statistically significant, it just means the results are because of the cause, as opposed to the other variables that you control for or can't control for.
Yeah.
So it's not one-to-one, but it's pretty close. I mean, that's when you say it's statistically significant, it means it couldn't have happened by chance. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Do you see when you think of future research, it would be nice to have a lot of people doing this kind of research. What kind of research would you like to see in the massage chair world that would add to the credibility, the reliability, the validity of the massage chair industry?
Geez, that's a good question. The only thing I could think of doing that hasn't been done, or maybe you're working on it now, is having a control. So someone that's just sitting on a chair, take their pulse, blood pressure, perceived pain, perceived stress, and then measuring that to see if that is statistically significant. I would venture to guess that it is, because your other modalities that you use in your stress center those are also kind of like, I wouldn't call them placebos at all, but there are other modalities that are working, but not to the degree that a massage chair works. Mm-hmm. So I suspect control can still validate it, but I think that would be the only difference. Would be maybe the only other study I think would be, just a control. And then I think it would be good to focus on particular syndromes or pain patterns, like back pain, and even narrowing it down to low back versus mid back, neck, neuropathic things like maybe carpal tunnel and foot neuropathies. So there's probably a lot of different conditions you could measure the effectiveness of the therapy or lack of effectiveness.
Right.
And because my big fear, and this is coming from the world of chiropractic, this is a real problem. Oh yeah, chiropractic can cure this and can cure that. And I don't know if that, I haven't been in the industry for like quite a few, 16, 17 years. So I don't know if you still hear that kind of stuff, but that stuff used to make me cringe when I heard it, because you cannot say that it's a cure for all this stuff. I'll give it to you. It'll be a cure for some muscle spasm and scar tissue and pain associated with those musculoskeletal dysfunctions. But golly, who knows? It might, like, people. I can see a day where people say, "Oh, the massage chair cured my diabetes."
Right.
Well, a diabetic, and I've seen this, a diabetic might have some neuropathy benefits, neuropathic benefits, but does it cure diabetes? Heavens no. And so I get scared, not scared, but very uncomfortable when practitioners or salesmen or whatever sell features to a massage chair that are not really proven. And so I think doing studies per condition would be helpful.
Yeah, two interesting thoughts came to mind while you were saying that. First of all, I think it would be cool to do, once we did a study that was where we had somebody listen to a relaxation exercise and we measured their salivary and blood cortisol being a stress hormone. And so, I mean, someone would spit into a vial and we take their blood, and then they'd listen to a guided relaxation exercise, and then they'd do the same thing kind of pre and post. And then we had a control where they did the same thing, spit into saliva, because cortisol shows up in the blood and the saliva, and adrenaline doesn't as much in the saliva, but cortisol is easily accessible. And so we had a control group similarly, that they would do the same thing, spit, and we take their blood, and then they would just read. So they didn't do anything proactively relaxing, they just read. And then they do the same thing, and we measured the two, and the significant difference between the two. Again, and I was thinking it'd be interesting to do a study where we measure cortisol and see if because there is some subjective, when you ask somebody on a scale from 1 to 10 how stressed they are, and they say, well, I'm an 8, there's a lot of subjectivity going on there. Yeah. Heart rate and blood pressure, but there might be other factors that associate. They might have just come from the gym, or they might have just had an argument with somebody, and that plays into it. But you can't. Cortisol would be a cool thing to just test them and go through it, and then test them again. And I think that would
be awesome. But that could open up, because I've limited my thinking to research studies to pulse, blood pressure, perceived stress, perceived pain. But if you can open it up to other measuring sticks like blood and saliva and things like that, that'd be huge. Because that stuff you cannot really, that's completely objective.
Yeah.
Completely objective. You cannot manipulate that really. Of course it can be manipulated. That's what meds are all about. But just in a natural environment, that would be awesome.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
Awesome.
interesting? The other thought that I was thinking was when you are you were mentioning that diabetes, massage can't cure diabetes, but in my thinking, see, stress results in an imbalance in every system of the body, head to toe. And when you regain balance in whatever way, healing happens. And so if you could measure, if you could, you can't say, well, this relaxation fixed this headache, but you can say this relaxation reduced the stress that was causing the headache. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
And I think that's the case with, quite a few of our pathologies that we struggle with now. There's a lot of problems that we can say it's not one-to-one, but there's quite a close correlation between stress and that problem. And if you can put it back in balance, the healing will happen of itself, just like you cut your arm 2 weeks later, your arm's better. It just heals by itself because you let the conditions and the physiology take care of the healing. What do you think? I got so many questions. Uh, if you were to prescribe massage chair use for general well-being, and where you said, okay, if somebody wants to thrive, somebody wants to be emotionally well, somebody wants to function at high levels, mentally and physically, and you being the doctor of massage chairs, and you could prescribe, hypothetically, how often would you recommend somebody spend, and how long would you recommend in a good high quality chair? What would your prescription look like?
Well, I
Not
don't know.
to fix a problem, but for general well-being.
General well-being. Well, the majority of people that have a massager and use it 3 to 4 times a week.
Is that what you found?
Yes, our experience. Now, I haven't surveyed that in a long time. That was what one of our original surveys was years ago. And then there's some that maybe use it once or twice, period. And it just sits there and becomes a clothing rack. But that's rare with massage chairs. It is rare because they got in front of a TV or by their bed and they're using it with purpose. But some people use it every day. And some people, and you know what? They need it. Like they'll call us if there's a problem with the chair and they need it fixed. And it's like, dude, I need this chair fixed like right away because I need it. I'm depending on it. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's kind of tough, but because we're limited. But a general prescription, if you will, I don't know. That's a good question. I'd probably say and I would not use it too long in successive programs. Like there's a 30-minute time limit on those, and that's for a reason. 30-minute programming time, and there's a reason for that, because if you use massage too much, it can you'll be sore. You can come out of it sore. It's like any exercise, or any kind of therapy, I guess, if you too much of a good thing. So, and it's not good for the machine either, because sometimes the machine will, the roller mechanism will heat up and expand, and then you'll hear grinding, and it's not great for the chair either. But, I'd say a 30-minute session every day is great. Fantastic. I've not heard of any detrimental effects of using a massage chair daily for 30 to 60 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
That's
like
probably the prescription I would recommend.
the latest research that I have seen, and a lot of people are talking about it now, where in the world of exercise, people, and this is something that I always tell people, the most important thing you can do is exercise for top to bottom. And what they're saying now is you don't need as much weight training, although you should do some weight training. You don't need as much high intensity interval training, and you should do some HIIT training. You don't need as much, but what you can't top out at, there's not an upper limit for how much you should do, is kind of that low intensity exercise that is where you can easily carry on a conversation with somebody. They're saying, as long as you're okay doing it, there's no harm doing it as long as you possibly want. And that's why I was curious if there's an upper limit with massage chairs. Is that a relatively new thing that they put on 30-minute maximums on the program?
Well, so it used to be less than that. The original Japanese chairs had 15 minutes. and then some were 20 and then 31. The only chair I remember having more than 30 minutes was one of the Infinity chairs. It was 45 minutes.
I remember that one.
But I think they don't do that just for the human benefit, but for the mechanical benefit of the chair. But no, we always say use pain as your guide. If you're hurting after sitting for 2 hours in a massage chair, well, don't do that again.
Yeah.
You know, or you know, condition yourself, grow into it. And when people first start with a massage chair and they've never used it, 15 minutes sometimes can be more than enough. And then of course you adapt to it, but we just let pain be your guide. I had one guy here in Utah who was in a car accident, and he walked into our show. He was a 30-year-old guy, walked into our showroom, and he looked like an old man.
All right.
And he sat on the chairs, and he left there straight up. I don't know if his pain was gone, but his posture was healthy. He looked healthier. Anyways, he used the chair 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day. It was the only thing that he used that helped reduce pain and help him walk. And so what are you going to tell him? No, sorry, an hour a day. That's the recommendation. No, use pain as your guide. The pain for him is when it breaks down, he has to buy another one. That's the pain.
That is, I've always loved that recommendation. When it starts to hurt, stop. That's great. What do you see? Are there any upcoming innovations in the massage chair industry that you're particularly excited or looking forward to, excited about or looking forward to?
Well, most of the stuff that's getting worked on right now is quote unquote AI. And I think that term is being misused and it's misleading because it's not really AI. Like they have gadgets on chairs that's becoming more common where they call it a chair doctor, and you put your hand on a sensor and it measures your perspiration, pulse, and then it kind of diagnoses your back based on the tightness of the muscles in the scan, and it kind of gives you this readout. And honestly, it's pretty cool. But it's not, I don't think it's a game changer, but they're calling it AI.
Yeah.
And I think I just talked about that in one of my broadcasts, but AI is, I think it's a term that's being used as a marketing term. That's what I mean in our industry. And there's probably in a lot of industries, that you just can't call something AI without honestly having AI, but half of us don't even know what AI is. Right. And these sensors have been around for a few years. So, and I don't think they're AI, but maybe there'll come a time where, like, for example, Panasonic and Cinca, they have chairs that have a very, very, very precise feedback mechanism on the scan and during the program. So it will scan your muscles. Most massage chairs just scan, okay, here's the base of your skull, here's the top of your shoulders, and your legs need to go out this far. That's a scan. But like the Panasonic and Cinca, and both of those are Japanese technologies. They actually will measure the tension of your muscles. And I think I was told it's 1,000, what's the measurement of that? 1,000 measurements per second or minute or something crazy, but it measures as it's going down your spine, it's measuring the tension of your muscles. And as the chair continues to work, it will adapt to that tension in your muscles. So now it's not as tense, or this one's becoming more tense. And so that is pretty cool. Wow. So actually, and that is the closest thing to AI we have, because it's actually a feedback mechanism of what's being done to see what the benefit is and alter the treatment at that very instant. And that is the closest thing we have to AI, but I think we'll see some more AI. It's gonna start coming fast and furious. And a lot of it's garbage. I shouldn't say garbage. I think the technology people are using is good technology, but I think calling it AI is very misleading. It's being used to sell chairs, kind of like 4D and 3D. They used to, 3D. There's only really 3 dimensions, and that's the X, Y, and Z axes. That's what 3D means. 4D is this 4th dimension, and to me, it was just a marketing thing. But, it changes the speed of the rollers. Even though you can change the speed of rollers in a chair that has 2D and 3D rollers, because you can adjust the speed of the rollers. But they have they change the cadence of the rollers during the program. So they call that 4D now. And then there's some companies that call it 6D and 8D because they have 6 rollers and 8 rollers. That's way overreaching. And I think AI is an overreach right now, but I think we'll see more of that. And again, a lot of these things, like we have air ionizers and chromotherapy and Bluetooth and a lot of these peripheral things that can serve a purpose. Like we encourage people when they use your program to, listen to it from their phone, from their app on their phone, and play it over the speakers of the chair. And I think that's extremely beneficial. But there's a lot of things, and like we talked about earlier, I think quad rollers are going to come out. I'd love to see pectoral rollers or some airbag or something that does more than just heating it come out. But that's probably the only things my old ancient mind can come up with in this world of new technology.
Right. Yeah, there's so many things that we haven't even thought of yet that are yet to come. So the last question I want to ask you, and I like to ask this to everybody. This is something that I've always wanted to ask everybody that I've ever met. But you've dedicated your career to improving people's wellness, whether that's your initial motivation or secondary, it's become your life. What final piece of advice would you leave to our listeners today that you think here's the one thing that I would recommend that people can do that would add value to their lives and help them thrive?
Oh, geez. Well, you're talking to a massage chair salesman. So I would have to say, if you have a wellness mentality, massage chairs are a wonderful complement to that.
Yeah.
So I think massage chairs are fantastic. I really do. I have 2 of them in my home. And of course I have the showrooms, but I love massage chairs. I think they're fantastic. And, but again, I'm a massage chair guy. So that's what I say. But I think in concert with other things to enhance wellness, I think it's a wonderful part of your quiver, It's another arrow in your quiver. I think it's fantastic, but it's not the be all end all of everything. It will reduce pain, where in some cases going to a chiropractor or using meds or using massage will not work.
Right.
It will do things that will surprise you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fantastic, but I can't, that would be my advice. Massage chairs are great. Yeah. I just adding massage to your wellness kit is fantastic, whether that's through a massage therapist or whatever, or your wife rubbing your shoulders.
And if it's a chair, you can have 8 wives rubbing your shoulders or your body at the same time, which is
or as many as you want, I guess. But there, and I just incidentally, and I know that if there's anybody on this call who are in the massage chair business, there are people that come in and say, "Listen, I'm sick and tired of rubbing my husband's back or my wife's back. I need a chair, and give me a chair." And so that's one of the motivations for getting a chair. So, but anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. I so very much appreciate you spending some time with us, and I know we've gained a lot of value from your wisdom. To our listeners, if you want to learn more about the benefits of massage chairs, be sure to visit. And do you want to give it's massagechairrelief.com, but you have dashes between each of the words, right?
Well, we own both variants of it.
Oh, yeah.
So if you type in massagechairrelief.com, you'll get there. And we have a pretty strong educational database with blog and articles and videos and whatnot. So there's lots of information.
We'll also have links to the research studies we discussed today in the show notes. So join us next time on the Wellness Workers podcast, where we continue exploring what our experts like Alan are doing to help improve their health and well-being. Until then, stay well.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.